What if the key to taming a city's crime wave isn't just new laws, but a complete system overhaul? Today, we're diving deep into a really bold federal crackdown that claims to be doing just that in our nation's capital. Washington, D.C. in crisis. I mean, for years, headlines have screamed about rising crime, but recently there seems to have been a dramatic shift. Imagine a week without a single murder in a city, well, notorious for violence, or carjackings plummeting by over 80%. That's apparently what's being reported in the nation's capital right now.
Indeed. We're looking at Attorney General Pam Bondi's recent announcement over 300 arrests since the National Guard joined President Trump's D.C. crime crackdown. And get this, 68 arrests and 15 illegal firearms seized on just one Saturday night alone. This aggressive federal intervention, it involved over 1,800 personnel. It's being framed as a necessary shock to the systems to restore order. The sources we're looking at argue this intervention became vital when from their perspective, local leadership was perceived to have failed. So yeah, we're going to unpack the details, the numbers, and sort of the core ideas driving this whole approach.
Okay. And for this deep dive, we're pulling directly from several sources related to this federal intervention in D.C. crime. That includes reports from the Conservative Institute, Fox News, the Manhattan Institute, and even Wikipedia on American conservatism, just for background.
Right. Our mission here is really to extract the key insights for you, to help you understand the conservative law and order framework behind this intervention. We'll analyze its reported successes, acknowledge the local opposition that, well, quickly emerged, and then explore a really detailed capacity view analysis proposed for D.C.'s criminal justice system. We'll show you what stands out, why these developments matter, giving you a look through the lens of our source material.
Okay, let's start by digging into the core philosophy then. The Trump administration's D.C. crime crackdown, it isn't just about arrests, right? It seems deeply rooted in this fundamental conservative principle, law and order. So, what exactly does law and order mean in this context for D.C.? Why is it so central here?
Exactly. For many conservatives, law and order translates to strong, really decisive government action and law enforcement. It advocates for harsher enforcement and penalties. Think longer prison terms, mandatory sentencing, a really robust, highly visible police presence. The core belief, at least as presented in our sources, is that this aggressive stance directly reduces crime, unequivocally. The argument you hear is that D.C. had become, quote, a complete mess with high murder rates and, a sense of lawlessness. And the sources attribute that to what they see as local democratic leaderships. Well, poor handling of the issue. This ties into that fundamental conservative belief that government's most legitimate role in peacetime includes protecting citizens' lives, liberty, and property, actively protecting them.
That aggressive stance, the idea of flooding an area with law enforcement for a shock to the system, well, it does ring a bell, doesn't it? Like Mayor Rudy Giuliani's approach in New York City back in the 90s, which, saw big crime reductions. Is that the kind of rapid impact they're aiming for?
That's a very relevant comparison. The underlying philosophy is quite similar. It's the belief that a massive, visible surge in law enforcement can rapidly disrupt criminal activity and restore a sense of order. The objective is immediate, profound impact. To create a clear deterrent, show that law enforcement can and will reassert control. Our sources definitely highlight this shock as essential to shift the tide quickly.
Okay, let's talk numbers then, because this is where it gets really interesting. The administration is touting some pretty significant figures. Can you walk us through the immediate impacts reported since this federal intervention began? How fast did things supposedly change?
Absolutely. So Attorney General Bondi's announcement, it highlighted over 300 arrests since the National Guard came in, including dangerous criminals like drug traffickers, homicide suspects, and on that one Saturday evening I mentioned, 68 arrests, 15 illegal firearms seized, just one night. Fox News reported what they called extraordinary results, a 22% drop in violent crime within the first week of federal control, and no murders for 7 consecutive days, apparently quite rare for D.C., especially in summer. Robberies reportedly dropped 46% and carjackings down a whopping 83%.
83%.
Yeah, 83%. Vice President J.D. Vance even claimed a 35% reduction in violent crime, over 50% reduction in robberies over just 9 days. These figures are really presented as clear, immediate evidence that the federal intervention is working. Making D.C. safe again is the line.
Those figures are certainly dramatic. And I mean, if they hold true for anyone living in the district and an 83% drop in carjackings, that would be profoundly felt. A huge relief. But as we often find, there's usually another side to the story, isn't there? What about the local response and those who view this differently, especially regarding the data itself?
Yeah, that's a really important question, especially for D.C., with its unique history around autonomy. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, and many residents too, have strongly opposed this federal takeover. They see it not just as a policy disagreement, but as a significant infringement on their local governance. Self-determination, that's a deeply felt issue there. Protesters were even chanting "Free D.C." during officials' visits, which kind of sums it up. And beyond that, critics argue city crime stats were actually already declining before the feds stepped in. So they question the accuracy, or at least the cause, of the administration's reported drops. There are even reports of an investigation into these figures, with the White House claiming local numbers were manipulated. So it highlights this clear, significant clash between the federal law and order approach and, well, fundamental concerns about local autonomy and civil liberties.
Okay, so on the surface, these numbers paint a picture of, immediate success from the federal perspective. But beneath that shock and the political back and forth, our sources suggest a city grappling with deeper issues, questions of governance, systemic failure maybe. Which brings us to this deeper analysis from the Manhattan Institute. They offer what they call the capacity view. What does that report tell us about the underlying issues, beyond just the headlines?
That's exactly right. The Manhattan Institute's report, it's called Doing Less with Less, and it really shifts the perspective. It argues D.C.'s crime surge isn't just about, abstract root causes or bad vibes, but a comprehensive collapse in the criminal justice system's actual ability to function, its capacity. It's basically saying the machine designed to control crime has just seized up, and understanding that mechanical failure, not just the symptoms, is key. The report identifies three distinct, sort of independent crime problems contributing to this collapse.
Three distinct problems. Okay.
Yeah. First, a long-standing homicide and group violence issue. Rates among young black men rose dramatically, peaking at almost 299 per 100,000 in 2023. That's extremely high. It's highly concentrated among small social networks, often gangs, and interestingly, it's exacerbated by social media taunting, fueling retaliation.
Wow. Social media driving homicides.
Apparently, yeah. Second, a newer problem, adolescent crime, primarily auto theft and carjacking. A staggering 65% of carjacking arrests involve juveniles. Another 14% involve 18 or 19-year-olds. These acts are often impulsive, sometimes even live-streamed. It shows a really disturbing trend among youth. And third, just public disorder. A general decay, rampant fare beating on the metro, aggressive panhandling, open shoplifting, uncontrolled, unsheltered homelessness. Calls for sanitation enforcement are way up too. It signals this pervasive breakdown in just civic norms and everyday safety.
So it's not just one big crime problem, but multiple distinct issues, each with its own character. And this capacity view ties it all directly to how the whole system functions, or I guess malfunctions. It's about the system itself failing.
Precisely. The report really digs into how that systemic decline manifests. It details a pretty comprehensive breakdown across critical areas. First, policing. The MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department, is at a half-century low in staffing. Nearly 500 fewer officers. That's a 12% decline just since 2019.
Half a century low. That's significant.
Huge. And unsurprisingly, police activity, things like traffic stops, arrests, plummeted by 25–50% since March 2020. Less policing just means less crime prevention, less response. Then there's prosecution. The U.S. Attorney for D.C. handles many local cases there, right?
Yeah.
They prosecuted less than half of felonies and only about a quarter of misdemeanors in 2022.
Less than half a felony?
Yeah, a significant drop from previous years. And notably, many unlawful gun possession arrests were either declined or downgraded. So the message from this perspective is criminals face a lower chance of facing serious charges than the judiciary. The system's struggling there too. 13 out of 62 judgeships in the D.C. Superior Court are vacant. 13.
Leading to backlogs, I assume.
Massive case backlogs, delays, justice is slower, and that deterrent effect of quick, certain consequences, it's diminished. And it's not just traditional law enforcement. Look at other systems. Truancy rates in D.C. public schools soared to nearly 40% post-pandemic.
40%.
40% truancy, with only a fraction referred to services or court. That's not just a school problem, right? It points to a deeper societal breakdown that inevitably spills over. Also, homeless encampment clearances are below pre-pandemic highs, even though unsheltered homelessness is up. The argument from the Manhattan Institute is pretty clear. Less effort, less capacity across the board directly leads to more crime.
Okay, so if the problem is this collapse in the system's capacity, what are the actual solutions being proposed to rebuild, to strengthen D.C.'s criminal justice system? What's the path forward from this capacity view?
Right. So the Manhattan Institute offers very concrete recommendations to do more by increasing capacity. And these proposals definitely align with a conservative, sort of tough-on-crime approach. focused on reinforcing the system's foundations. First, federally fund MPD hiring. Use federal programs like COPS grants to really invest in hiring more MPD officers. Get those staffing numbers back up quickly.
More boots on the ground.
Essentially, yeah. Second, empower the D.C. Attorney General. Expand their local prosecutorial authority. Let them handle cases the U.S. Attorney declines. This provides local accountability, ensures more crimes actually get prosecuted, don't just fall through the cracks. Third, expedite judicial confirmations. Revise the laws for D.C.'s unique Article I courts to presumptively confirm presidential judicial appointments within 3 months.
Cut through the delays?
It's exactly. Prevent partisan delays, fill those vacancies, tackle the case backlogs. Fourth, prosecute truants and criminal behavior. Use truancy prosecution as maybe a less harsh way to deter future crime for juveniles already involved in crime. The idea is leverage school attendance, program compliance, intervene early before things escalate.
Yeah.
And finally, number 5, clear homeless encampments without apology. Swiftly, unapologetically clear public homeless encampments. The report argues this reduces public disorder and facilitates transitions to stable housing. They frame it as more humane overall and better for reducing street crime.
Okay, so this deep dive really shows us a compelling picture then. You've got a federal government stepping in with a strong law and order mandate, claiming immediate successes, big crime drops, even as local critics are questioning the data, pointing to maybe a deeper systemic breakdown. And then this capacity view from the Manhattan Institute highlights that decline police, prosecutors, judges as the core issue. And it offers this suite of solutions focused on, well, empowering and resourcing the system itself.
Yeah, what's really fascinating here is how the debate shifts, doesn't it? From maybe abstract root causes talk to the actual nuts and bolts, the mechanics of the criminal justice system. Whether it's through more federal funding, more local prosecutorial power, faster judicial appointments, or direct action on truancy and public disorder, the emphasis is clearly on making the system more efficient, more robust. It really challenges us, to consider where responsibility truly lies when a city faces a crime wave like this, and what types of interventions, especially those focused on rebuilding institutional capacity, are ultimately most effective.
So as you reflect on all this, maybe consider this. If the actual capacity of a city's justice system directly correlates with its safety and order, what does that imply? Especially about the balance between local control and federal intervention, particularly in unique places like Washington, D.C. And how might understanding this capacity view change how you think about crime solutions in your own community, moving beyond just laws to think about the actual infrastructure of justice itself?